Hey everybody, this is John,
And that's Matt.
right? And so this is our Game of Thrones discussion, a little bit of speculation, maybe a little bit of a review-ish
Yeah,
type thing,
some reaction,
some
Ari.
reaction because it was pretty good,
Yeah,
right?
we just watched it, as most of you probably did.
Right, as like the 10,000 YouTubers
And if,
putting their
if you
video up.
haven't, stop watching this video now.
Yeah, absolutely spoiler heavy.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just gonna talk right out with the stuff that happened.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a countdown. If you ain't got off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's all on you now.
Absolutely. All right. So, where do you want to start? What are you thinking with?
Go right in the beginning. The new intro credits,
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
I think they stepped it up in
yeah.
general with that.
I mean, because like to me, even like I know they have been tweaking them and kind of changing them from season to season, but this was like a whole new ball game.
Right.
Opening credits.
And I feel like graphically it was just better. It was
Yeah.
like better CGI.
Cleaner,
Yeah.
really crisp on the details.
Mhm.
Like, and it was really close too. They had a lot of
Right.
swooping kind of camera angles for that.
Like I felt like in the other ones they kind of have a lot of they had some swooping shots,
Yeah.
but they kind of didn't go so close.
Yeah, it
because
was like a
maybe
map shot almost,
Right.
high up. But
it
this
was
one's
more
like
animated slightly. To
yeah,
kind
this
of,
one then had things moving around.
Yeah, this one was like more CGI, if that makes sense, and the
Yeah.
other like reminded you of like more of a 2D animation.
Yeah. It kind of had a.
I mean it was 3D as well, but
It was all CG either way.
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think where it's the other one felt like it could have been like an actual physical object
Right.
that was like, just running through motions,
Right.
whereas this one had a lot of movements in it that were obviously CG, like manipulation stuff.
What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. I mean, and always trying to pick up the context clues
yeah,
within it because it starts off at the wall broken
mm-hmm.
and swoops down and shows the different parts of the north that would be important, but also you have Kingsland or you have Winterfell
Right.
now with Stark's back in control,
Mm-hmm.
and that's nice. But also the trees in bloom.
Yeah, which is so. Does it bloom during the winter? I wonder. I guess is that a winter tree?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the. I mean, I'm in like I don't know. I didn't read many of the books.
I think
and so
I read
I'm,
like the first two. Maybe.
right. So we're not like focused on the book and the book knowledge, but someone who's read the books probably there's a specific thing
Right, for
about
a reason.
when those because it's related to the old gods.
Yeah.
So my rationale just from being a fan of the show would be that its blooming could be to do with winter being
Right.
here, or it could also have to do with this like resurgence of magic.
Yeah. And I just felt like kind of going back to the intro just a little bit is we've been told this episode wasn't really much longer or I guess more elaborate, but we've been told like the budget has stepped up a whole lot.
Definitely.
So I think just by showing you the intro being that much higher quality, it's just kind of alluding to the fact that this entire season is going to be heavier on CGI and budget in general. Like the dragons looked pretty great. I mean, there were some spotty elements to me, like when they first were flying, maybe.
Yeah, I mean CGI is going to be hard to play,
right? In general,
a lot of stuff.
especially
But
on a
I mean,
television
you
show.
obviously like have as many shots, as
Right.
much stuff that went on with dragons this episode. Anytime you have those dragons on screen,
Right.
that's a lot.
It's about as much as we could hope for in a television show. So I guess that's probably enough on the intro. But I mean, where did it start off again? I guess it started
we had
off
the Unsullied marching into
right.
Winterfell.
Yeah,
right?
that was really fast. That was in a lot of the preview material was that showing that. I feel like what they've shown looks like it's mostly from the first episode in like some of the trailers.
Yeah, I mean they I don't think they. The further we get in, being 6 episodes, I think every episode's gonna give away some major plot point from now on,
Right.
of what's really going down between everyone.
Yeah, I know that on one of the trailers that came in, they actually showed the horse, like the undead horse,
Oh,
like
yeah.
showing up in front of Winterfell. And so I don't know, where do you think that? I mean, I think that's probably gonna be about season or episode 3 or 4. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
or at the end of episode 2,
Right,
maybe
kinda
like the
start,
last scene you show that horse steps up or something.
Who knows? But let's guys stick on this episode for a little bit. No, I kind of went off topic.
No, that's fine. To kind of go with that, so Unsullied come in, and then I thought it was interesting how they had this scene where they showed it from Arya's perspective,
Right.
watching Jon march in, ride in
Mhm.
with Daenerys right beside him, and it was like, to me, I don't know how you felt about it, but like her posture was like she kind of was hoping John would like look at her and just
Right.
like she was wanting the reunion to happen right then. That they would
Right.
just like they would reconnect
I,
in that moment, but then kind of like when he just rode on past without even looking,
mhm.
it kind of like realized, hey, they're not kids anymore. He's like got
Right.
this position
Yeah.
and this, he's in this place where he's got to maintain a face.
Did you sense, at least this is what I kind of sensed also, that there was a little bit of already tension right there for her seeing him beside Daenerys slightly.
Absolutely,
Like a little distrust.
and that goes into like when they actually do reconnect
Right.
in a later scene. Her line to him of don't forget
Yeah, you're part of this
your family. Yeah, don't
Right.
forget we're your family.
Exactly.
And I think that with the tension that we saw with Sansa
Right.
in the next scene after the entrance, where they're all in the Great Hall,
Mhm.
and you have Sansa and Daenerys throwing some crazy shade at each other.
Right. Yeah. That was there. And just in general, I think the North, just being extremely distrusting.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you think that's going to play in almost before the dead get there? Or do you think there's going to be, I mean, I know there's going to be some politics involved, but I mean, a part of me wished that they could have brought one of the undead people there.
Yeah,
'Cause it
which I
looks like
think
they
that's
need to
why
sell.
they don't have it present there, because you want those
Everybody
tensions.
would be on board already.
Yeah, exactly. And so as soon as the undead army shows up, like there's no sides anymore. We saw that before with
Right.
like what happened with the wildlings and the Night's Watch, where when the dead aren't there, they're at each other
Right.
just constantly. But as soon as the undead army shows up,
Mhm.
there's like no question we've got to survive.
Right.
The living versus the dead kind of thing.
Do you think it's because, I mean, well, that's kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but in general, do you think that maybe there might be some, I know it's going to be tension as far as drama goes, but do you think there's going to be any like executions or any assassinations that happen to almost divide people before the dead even get there? Do you
Yeah,
think that that's possible?
it may be possible, but I know like it's not going to be from John's end, right? I mean,
Right.
John's like a pragmatist, and he's very like forward about the fact that he doesn't kill people unless it just seems like he has no other choice.
Right.
To
Well, I'm
do
not
that.
saying him necessarily. I mean
Right.
along the lines of like somebody in the north, since they're setting up that much distrust.
Right, there could
will
be like
Sansa have somebody
an assassination attempt.
right on her.
I mean, there could be something like that, but again, like there's so much tension and sort of foreshadowing or an overshadowing of this army that's coming down. At this point, even though the North hasn't seen them directly,
Mm-hmm.
that we've been told,
Only a few of the north have.
but
yeah.
like everyone seems to be on board about the fact that there is this undead army, that
Right.
the Night King's army is on the way, and so even
Right.
if they don't quite see it and believe it, I mean, these people just saw two dragons
Right.
flying over Winterfell, so I don't think people are going to be as at each other's throats as we saw like in a couple seasons ago, where you had the tensions with Jon Snow becoming named King of the North and
Right.
then leaving immediately after that. There was a lot of tension
Where
surrounding
you didn't
that.
know if Sansa was going to really stick loyal
And
to it.
the Littlefinger Sansa sort
Right.
of thing that happened after that.
Yeah.
And so the closer we get to this battle, the less I think people are going to be inclined to be at each other. But
Yeah.
there's still a lot of distrust there. There's still a lot of
Right.
question about, well, what's going to happen after.
Right. I think Sansa would almost have to know by the confirmation of Bronn and Jon coming at it that I would hope.
Bran.
Sorry, yeah, Bran. We mixed that up earlier.
Yeah.
Bran and Jon both coming at it from a completely different angle, both saying and confirming kind of the same thing. You would think logically, I would put two and two together that, hey, this is a legit thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you haven't seen it, maybe there's still a little bit of,
well, that's where it's going to be interesting to me is so like this seems to be a story that's going to really fixate on the women.
Right.
Because Sansa and Daenerys and Arya are all looking at the sort of political game that's going on, whereas Bran and Jon are both looking at the bigger picture and saying, like, the politics doesn't matter. This is what's going to happen, and this is what that needs to be done.
Right.
And so while they're fixated on the bigger enemy, it's going to be up to these important women in Winterfell who are saying, okay, look, yeah, we've got to fight this, but there's going to be an afterwards.
Right.
And we've got to decide what's going to shake out after the fact and if we can trust each other. And I mean, Cersei's doing the same thing, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously she's not, she doesn't even care about the Night Army.
Can we strangle her already?
Something's going to happen, hopefully.
I hope she doesn't end up on the throne. That'll make me literally sick.
I mean, she's there right now.
Right, but what was that whole thing? If you think this is going to be a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can go ahead and talk about her for a little bit because there's only a little bit of King's Landing material in this
the very
episode.
Beginning.
And so what you have, the Golden Army or the Golden Company, whatever they're called.
One quick little note back to Arya. I thought it was just a really cool character moment. The fact that when everybody saw the dragons come over, they were all running the opposite direction. And she turned and ran towards it.
She wasn't freaking out at all.
No, she was just in awe of it and loved it.
She thought it was amazing. I'm gonna tweak my mic here a little bit. There we go. Hopefully,
but yeah, let's jump to King's Landing. So yeah, the Golden Company showing up.
They didn't have elephants.
Right, lame. Too much CGI.
I wanted the elephants.
Right. Didn't we all?
Cersei, what her tactic is planning is that she's hoping that all the armies of the north will
decimate each other.
Well, basically kill themselves, stopping the Night Army, and so she's going to wait and see which one is weaker and attack them first,
right,
and then take out the other based on who kind of shakes out to be the winner.
Right. What do you think about? Because I think besides the Greyjoy and her hooking up, the Greyjoy King, I guess, if you want to call him that.
Yeah.
Besides them hooking up, I guess King's Landing is about finished. They didn't do too much at King's Landing.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot because everything's happening in the north right now.
Bronn's maybe going to go to assassinate both brothers, which is kind of a surprise.
Yeah, Bronn being hired and given the same crossbow that Tyrion used to kill Tywin with. That's going to be kind of crazy.
Right.
To see what he does. I mean, because he has a better relationship with either of them than he ever had with Cersei.
Yeah.
Which is to say, he never really had a relationship with Cersei, whereas he was, a guard to Jaime and was
same to
was also a guard to Tyrion and kind of friends with both of them at some point.
So I guess it's it's funny because his character to me has always almost been like some of the Han Solo somewhere where it's he acts like he's motivated by the gold, but he always wants to do the honorable thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we'll see if they keep with that character arc, or if they, Game of Thrones has always been good about the twist.
Right.
Will he,
something's going to happen that could steer him a different direction.
Right. Well, in the end, his greed actually went over. He usually chooses the honorable thing.
Right.
And maybe he thinks it hasn't worked out for him, so now he chooses the dishonorable thing. Maybe.
I don't know for sure, but it seemed what I would think from his character's history is that Bronn will take the money and, put everything out there as if he's going to go through with it because, you don't want to piss off Cersei in King's Landing because she's still in control. But once he gets up to the north and
maybe sees the dead.
Maybe sees that, or maybe he shows up during the middle of the fight or right before the fight starts and is like, all right, this is the bigger fight.
Right.
But even without that, when he gets up there and Cersei's far behind him, but he's got these two people he's been friends with, he could easily just say, screw it, I'm not going to do it, and never go back and just go somewhere else where he can spend his money and be out of Cersei's reach.
Which, to me, that's a really stupid move to pay him in advance. You know what I mean? As far as that goes, or how much he's paying in advance, I guess, would be the question. But kind of going off of that, because it kind of goes into one of the many reunions we had. What do you think about Tyrion's almost been a little bit sidelined, I feel like, especially in this episode.
Yeah.
And then that little comment between him and Sansa, which that was the first time we seen them, but I used to think you were the smartest person in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was such a dig a little bit to him. And almost, it's kind of true because if you look at the last, honestly, couple seasons to me, it seems like he's being played so much. You know what I mean? Or
well, it's been an interesting kind of flip of the characters, right? Because last time Sansa and Tyrion were together, like Tyrion was the cynic.
right.
You know, he was the one that he had like. You know, of course, this was after the fact that like he had saved King's Landing. He was like the hero who stepped up and rallied the troops
Right.
to keep things in line or to keep everyone in place until his father could come in and
Right.
run off the invading fleets.
Want to move you up a little bit?
Yep, my mic keeps slipping. There we go.
Mm.
But so like he was he was cynical of everybody at that point, and he didn't trust anybody. And she was the naive girl who like trusted everyone and thought, oh well, this is nobility, and kind of felt like with having Ned Stark as a father, felt like that's how everyone was supposed to be.
Right. And Ned Stark was such an honorable person.
Yeah.
She thought maybe everybody was honorable too.
Right. And then now we have it completely opposite, where Sansa is the cynic, not trusting anyone, knowing that hey, everyone's playing this game, and yet Tyrion's here who like.
I guess after seeing Dany and all of that, it's like, because I remember
he opens himself up to it.
Well, Dan and Dave kind of talked about that, where they were saying like for the first time in his life, he almost isn't the cynic when he saw the dragons and when he, you know what I mean. So
he becomes a believer,
right? He became a believer to a certain degree, and now he's loyal to Dany. But that, I guess, that to me almost takes away somewhat of his edge and kind of puts him in a little bit of danger.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And like I guess in fairness to him, as opposed to like Sansa's still in that realm of people who have not seen the undead. And
right.
She's just now seen the dragons.
Right.
Where just like with Jon and his problem of maybe Tyrion falls into that group of seeing the bigger fight and somehow wanting to believe that that Cersei is intelligent enough to understand that when she sees undead people,
right,
that she's going to recognize that there's a bigger fight to play here, and not to fixate on these petty political games that she's going to do.
But in a way, I mean, to me, Cersei's almost in the best position at this point to hold the crown at the end or sit on the throne.
Oh yeah, I mean she's playing the smart move as far as like trying to preserve herself.
Right.
Whether or not, and of course it's a big gamble. Like her position only works assuming that
they win.
They win. The Night Army beats all of her enemies and is weakened enough so that she can beat them.
Right. Well, the fact is though, they would. It's gonna be funny. They would. Even if the Knights' army was to win, then they have the entire group. You know what I'm saying? That's even a bigger army.
Right. And I don't think she sees that perspective of
right.
it.
So, I mean, literally, she absolutely needs the others to win.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be like the only thing that saves her plan is, they beat them.
Right.
But are weak. And she can sweep in with her Iron Fleet and the Golden Company and just take everyone out and claim her power over the Seven Kingdoms kind of thing.
And I guess, well, we're kind of skipping ahead. We'll talk about, speculate where we think things are going here in a little bit. But I guess kind of run over a few because we don't want this to be like 30 minutes long if we don't have to. But if we're having a good conversation, it's cool. So other reunions, we had kind of Greyjoy.
Yep.
Theon Greyjoy with his sister, kind of redeeming himself a little bit by saving
the headbutt.
Yeah, right. It was like knock you out, and then
you were a jerk. You shouldn't have left me.
Yeah.
But
thanks for saving
you
me.
came back. Yeah, you bitched out to begin with, but you did come back. So
that was cool. And then him, I guess, being honorable to want to go back and fight with the Starks.
Which that was an interesting interaction there because like he wanted to say, look, we should go back and fight with Winterfell,
right?
But he was like tactful enough to say, look, you're the queen here,
right?
It's what you want to do, and she obviously still loves her brother, and I think she recognizes that Theon's never been really a Greyjoy,
right?
Like even if he has the name, even if he's the blood. Theon's always been raised in House Stark, and he not only because of that owes something to them, but also because he fucked up. He made mistakes. He betrayed the house that raised him.
Right. Well, I guess one thing's kind of interesting because she said where the army of the dead can't reach, but assuming that we know he has one dragon,
Right?
How many dragons could he possibly have at the end?
And the other types of means that could happen, though they could reach. So yeah, she may not be as untouchable as she thinks she is in the Iron Isles.
Over under 30% that the Night King is the one sitting at the Iron Throne.
Man, it's gonna be.
Do you think it's a 30% possibility? I don't know. I mean,
maybe
it would be a hell of a twist.
Maybe. I mean, there's also a couple wild cards out there, and this is again going into speculation in the future episodes of like. To me personally, as a fan of this kind of genre and of like the style that Martin has brought in of slowly building up the magical elements of the fantasy part, I want to see a god. Yeah. I want to see the Lord of Light show up. I want to see like the old gods do something dramatic. I want to see, I want to see the children pop back into the mix.
Yeah. I do feel like this is honestly, it's been a tale, and like that they've kind of made that comment, or they at least alluded to it, that this is a fight between two gods.
Yeah.
The Lord of Light and the old gods of,
there's some, like saying, like, and they gave us that great glimpse in the earlier season with Bran.
Death, I guess, would be the same.
Yeah, the god with Arya. Yeah. And I mean, they even mentioned that in the sort of the preview clip after the episode of, she mentions the faces.
Right.
And so that sort of brings into the mix somehow again.
The face. So I feel like they've somewhat alluded to this being a war of gods. And I know they've introduced more and more magical elements, but at the same time, I feel like it would almost kind of pull a cheap Lord of the Rings thing a little bit when, like Lord of the Rings, where it was like, oh, we have a big army, but now we have a ghost army. And they just kill everybody.
Return of the King.
Right. And I kind of feel like if they just bring in, now it's two gods fighting each other, it like weakens everybody else's role in the system. You know
a little bit. Yeah. I can see
and I feel like if, which I'm not necessarily, I don't know what I believe, but I'm in general, in any mythology, it's usually God or the gods working through man, in most mythologies. And so,
how they're going to do it. I mean, because you still have the Lord of Light agents who are planted in the
group. They help with magical elements, like bringing people back to life, but they're bringing back important people that are going to be important for that war. So it's like, I don't know how much they can directly interfere with this. Or you're not, you don't know. I just don't know if I see like two big mammoth gods going after each other. You know what I mean? Like gods,
or even just like the leveling the playing field, like doing something. It doesn't have it doesn't have to be a swooping victory brought on by them, sort of the Deus Ex Machina kind of thing.
Right.
But the just doing some major thing that levels the playing field, because right now, as it stands, I would lean towards the Night King and his army and the Walker's
the fact
army.
that he could throw one spear and take down a dragon.
Yeah,
and he has a dragon now.
Anyone who dies, can be recruited to his group. Right. I mean, so it's like a never-ending supply of new soldiers.
Anybody that he's killing is coming back.
Exactly.
So I mean, but I guess their big Achilles heel is the fact that if they knock out one of the white or the white,
one of the walkers,
one of the walkers, then the rest of the whites die,
or at least the ones that were under them, right?
Right. So if they kill the Night King, then that's the ball game. That's like checkmate,
right,
for the game, or at least for.
And so there's going to be we haven't really heard much of a plan here from those in Winterfell as far as how they're going to actually attack
him.
Yeah.
They set that up at the very end of last season, they did say, I think if you kill him, or whatever.
Right.
So they kind of threw that in there, but they haven't showed them strategizing yet. And maybe that's next episode or whatever.
I mean, it very well could be. Right. And so, I guess, so.
Yeah, let's kind of run through these because we're a little low on time. So the idea of the proposal, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but Jon and Daenerys.
Yeah, and then this kind of leads in, though, to the reveal of Tully telling him, Sam Tully, telling him about him being
the real king,
Aegon Targaryen.
Yeah,
So, like, do you think that's going to affect his love of Danny? The fact that it's his aunt? You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
yeah, and I don't even think he's thinking about that at this point because it's
right.
it's a mixture of like I mean, his first reaction is this man who I thought was my father this whole time
He was
lying to me.
Right.
But then on top of that, the sudden like weight of his importance in everything because I mean, to think about it, the reason Baratheon would have killed him is the same reason why he should be concerned if Danny would kill him.
Right.
Because, and like Tully, like Sam said to him at the end, like, hey, you were willing to give up everything for your people.
Will she be doing the same?
Danny doesn't seem that willing. And, that's the one kind of...
She's been a conqueror.
She has been a conqueror. And, despite, everyone loves her and everyone's like, hey, we want her to be it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been an interesting character development, because we saw her go from sort of the weak sister to this empowered, conqueror.
Right.
And so she's turned more and more towards this mentality of she deserves this. Right. And she needs this.
I mean, she killed her older brother, and he would have technically been birthright to the thing.
Exactly.
I mean? Or at the time of her knowledge.
Right.
So that's kind of a thought process too, of to say,
does she want it bad enough to
take him out?
To take him out, or is she willing to say, all right, let's marry, or even you're it. You're right. Obviously the one that that is in place for this, not deserves it anymore necessarily. Right. Although he kind of does. I mean, he's probably, as far as character
go, he's the most level-headed for the throne.
Yeah, and I mean the most self-sacrificial, obviously, and all these other things.
But I guess that's kind of the big question going forward is, because like you said, she kind of, does she care? She's been spouting this, it's my rightful throne because I'm the queen, I'm the blah 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 blah.
Right.
I'm the blood, I'm
my
the
dragons,
yeah,
and all this stuff.
So, is she truly like that, or when the put up or shut up, when she finds out no, he's the rightful king, will that be like okay, you are the rightful king, or will it be no, I worked so hard, I got here, I don't care who's supposed to be on the throne, I got the dragons, I got the army, this is mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I think the proposal, in my opinion, which that hasn't actually been sifted through yet, as far as to say, that hasn't even been brought out in public, their idea of them being together. But I guess my question would be on that. It's like, do you think Jon is smart to keep that hidden from Dany right now? Do you think he should talk to Dany in private, or how's that gonna?
Well, and that's the thing. We haven't even he hasn't had the chance yet, right? So like where we ended off, he hasn't had the opportunity to tell her yet,
right? And
so that's going to be, I think, one of the central questions of the next episode is, does he tell her? I mean, Jon Snow has always played the character role of the forthright person, and so it would seem out of character to him for him to take this piece of information and hide it.
Yeah, but to me,
I mean, he may be strategic and not just tell anyone, but like being as close as he is and forging this relationship with Dany.
Right.
I don't know that he'll keep it from her.
Just in the thought process though, that I don't know. I feel like my dog's coming in here. She wants to be on camera. She's probably going to be the cutest addition to this thing. But the fact that he doesn't care about the throne,
right?
That he doesn't want to be on the throne, you know what I mean? Technically,
right?
Like, will he be pragmatic enough? Like, because sometimes he's been honor driven. It's got him killed in the past. Could it get him killed again? Almost,
right?
Is he going to be strategic enough and smart enough to say, hey, the dead army's coming. Let's wait until after that to bring this up,
right?
Or will he be bringing this up right away?
You know what I mean? And that's the sort of like the central question, I think, with Jon Snow's story is, without this major conflict of the Night King and the undead army and the walkers and all of that, he is, even though he's not Ned Stark's son, he still was raised by Ned Stark, and he still has that attitude of he's not playing the game.
Yeah.
He didn't do it for the Night's Watch.
Right.
He didn't do it, when he left the Night's Watch and came down, I mean, he didn't ask people to name him king.
Right.
And as soon as he got, the chance, he was more than willing to relinquish his power to do what he thought was the best thing for his people. So he's obviously not into the game of power play, but that's also what got Ned Stark killed.
Right, absolutely. And I guess that's part of the question too, is because kind of along the same lines, I guess, will he, in my opinion, if I was in this world, I would think, hey, listen, we need to keep this under wraps for now until we deal with the Dead Army, because he not only potentially could lose Dany's trust because she could turn on him, he could also lose the North because they could almost, even though he's a son of Lyanna Stark, he would no longer be, necessarily he's a Stark and
right.
a Targaryen, but they could be some distrust
precarious position.
Right, so it just feels like he could literally lose. He's already somewhat losing some of his northern people by bending the knee to her. If he comes out saying, I'm a Targaryen too, then it could be like, well, I hate both of you guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's a little bit less, and maybe Sansa would even turn a little further against him.
Maybe. And Sansa's going to be the equalizer with all of it because, she's taken more prominent role in Winterfell, and it seems like where Jon had let them down, Sansa's been the rock in Winterfell saying, okay, I am a Stark, and this is the way things are going to happen now.
Right. Okay, so I feel like we've talked quite a bit about the episode. Just very quick thoughts, and then we'll do a quick rundown on the main characters. And as of right now, we'll kind of continue this every episode as we kind of see things unturned. But we'll go with we'll give a percentage of who do we think is going to be on the throne. So right now, we've kind of talked about where things are going that we think. What do you think the next episode, just a brief thing, what do you think the next episode's going to be?
Next episode, we're definitely going to see the effects of Jaime's presence.
Right.
That he shows up at the very end of this episode, so we're going to see what havoc that wreaks.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be between him and Bran.
I think that was going to be an interesting conversation, maybe.
Right.
If they have one.
Right.
No, it's definitely going to be like we saw in the preview. Dany sees the Kingslayer, the man who killed her father.
Right.
And then not only that, but we have, he's been the right hand of, Cersei for so long.
Yeah, she's going to see him as a spy, baby.
And all this stuff that's gone on in King's Landing. So he's not going to be trusted.
Right.
So it's a matter of, who's going to talk these people down from killing him on the spot.
So you think that's going to be the major plot point?
It's going to be a major plot point.
Yeah, and
definitely.
I think we're both on agreement. We think that maybe the ending shot will be that horse, or or them looking out at the dead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more posturing. We're going to see a little bit more with Cersei's planning, and what's going on there. Definitely, like if we see anything with the Greyjoys. Mm-hmm. We're gonna see, the escape and the potential of Greyjoys retaking the Iron Isles,
right?
And then, of course, the rest of the main Iron Fleet and whether or not they stay in King's Landing's port,
right, or if they go back and try to take back their islands, who knows?
Or whatever else this maverick of a king decides he wants to do.
Yeah. So well, that'll log us out for today of our Game of Thrones talk. I don't know what we want to call this yet. So, anyways,
Game of Opinions.
Game of Opinions. Game of Thoughts. Well, anyways, so appreciate you guys. If anybody tuned in, if you didn't, why not? We don't appreciate you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, leave your comments and trolling in the.
Yeah, give us the like, give us the thumbs down. You can hit the thumbs down twice.
Yeah, subscribe to their channel that doesn't exist quite yet.
Hit the little bell. If you're watching this video, it does exist. So hit the little bell.
Yeah, it exists now.
Right.
Now that you're watching.
In the future.
In your mind.
When you're watching this.
Straight to you.
Hopefully before the second episode comes out.
Okay.
All right. So see you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
I'm Matt, and this is
John.
Good. Peace.
Next week.